Welcome to week 4 of Explore the Bible. Excited about this passage as we look and continuing to look in Luke in chapter 2. And today we look at some of the events that came around the time of Jesus' circumcision and what happened there and the confirmation that comes. I think there is this, we need to think about the emotions and the thoughts that are going through Mary and Joseph's mind and how they're dealing with some things, and then how God comes and encourages them while also confirming to some other godly men, godly woman, what he's been doing and that his work is still happening. So it's really an important passage today that we look at, as well as some of the things that we hear that are said about Jesus as a baby even. So let's look at this. Luke chapter 2, beginning in verse 25 and 26. It says, "There was a man in Jerusalem whose name was Simeon. This man was righteous and devout, looking forward to Israel's consolation, and the Holy Spirit was on him. It had been revealed to him by the Holy Spirit that he would not see death before he saw the Lord's Messiah." So here's this man Simeon. You know, he's an unknown character to us, really. We don't know a whole lot about him outside of what we read here. We haven't heard much about him. We think of him as an older man, right? A righteous man, a devout man. Right? He's been looking forward to the coming of the Messiah, and the Holy Spirit is on him. The Holy Spirit rests on his life, right? And so he knew by the Holy Spirit that he was going to see the Lord's Messiah before he died. Okay, so this Simeon is a man that God has moved and worked in his life, and they go to the temple, and here's what happens. It says, guided by the Spirit, he entered the temple, and when the parents brought in the child Jesus to perform for him what was customary under the law, that's the circumcision, Simeon took him up in his arms and praised God and said, "Now, Master, you can dismiss your servant in peace as you promised, for my eyes have seen your salvation." Okay, I want you to pick up on something. First, we saw before he was filled with the Holy Spirit, right? Here, guided by the Spirit. Simeon was not supposed to be there. This wasn't the place that he would normally be, right? Maybe not his normal time, but for some reason he comes into the temple. The Spirit leads him into the temple, and when Jesus comes in with his parents, bringing him in, obviously, because he is a baby, an infant, right? When they bring him in to have the circumcision, he immediately takes him in his arms. He immediately knows under the influence and the power, the revelation from the Holy Spirit, he knows that this child, Jesus, is the Messiah. He knows this is the one who has been promised. Okay, now I want you to think about Mary and Joseph, who have had the experience with angels, right? 9 months ago. They have then gone through, without hearing from the Lord maybe. And then the baby's born, and he's born in Bethlehem. He's not born in Nazareth, and things aren't the way they're supposed to be, except then these shepherds just show up and tell about angels that have announced to them, that there's a Messiah born. Okay, there's some confirmation from the Lord, right? This is my son, Jesus, right? You'll name him Jesus. They name him Jesus. And then a few days later, they're in the temple having him circumcised, which they were going to do. And here comes this man who grabs up Jesus and he says, he is the salvation. My eyes have seen your salvation. Okay, here is this confirmation of them once again of who your son is. And they need to hear this as much as we need to hear it, as much as Simeon need to see him. They need to hear Simeon, what he had to say. Look, the Lord does this often, where when he puts us in a place where we're out on a limb, when we're out in a place that we're not familiar, but we believe this is where God has led us, but we're just not quite sure. The Lord all the time often brings to us this confirmation from other people that don't know us and that don't know that we need to hear that confirmation. And it may be even as something that's happening in their own lives. They're not doing it because we need it. They're doing it because they need it. But we need it too, this confirmation. Man, how powerful it is that they get this confirmation that yes, this is the Messiah. And then look at this. Then Simeon blessed them, and he told his mother Mary, listen to this. This is unbelievable, right? "Indeed, this child is destined to cause the fall and rise of many in Israel, and to be a sign that will be opposed. And a sword will pierce your own soul, that the thoughts of many hearts may be revealed." Man, This is not the news a mom wants to hear. This is tough, folks. Think about what's being said here to her. Your son is going to cause the fall and rise of many, and he will be a sign that will be opposed. There will be people against him. You need to know that there's going to be people against him. Opposition. People fighting against him. A sword will pierce your own soul. I don't know if there's any way that we can appreciate the fact that she had to carry this message. She had to carry this knowledge with her. And maybe it wasn't until Calvary, the Via Dolorosa, that she understood these words. Right? Maybe not until then. I mean, maybe she saw it in the things that were happening in Jesus' life, but as he was being confronted by different groups and Pharisees and Sadducees, but boy, at Calvary suddenly, the sword pierces my soul. The thoughts of many hearts will be revealed. It's going that Christ, what he did was show what had been there all along that nobody could see. Right? He revealed, he brought to light that which had always been there, both the faith and the lack of faith. He brought forth both of those things so that we could see what really was. There were those who were very religious who had no faith. And there were those who were completely outside of religion who had great faith. You can think about the Roman centurion at the foot of the cross. Surely this must be, this is the Son of God, right? We think about all the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the scribes, the teachers of the law that were in opposition to Jesus, right? That were persecuting and ultimately ordering his death. We think about the different people outside of Judaism who came to faith, whose faith was revealed, and those others whose faith or lack thereof was shown too. Boy, this is a tough burden to carry. And then there is Anna. Anna was a widow for 84 years. She was married for 7, a widow for 84, which means she was, over 100, right? She did not leave the temple, serving God night and day with fasting and prayers. At that very moment, she came up and began to thank God and to speak about him to all who were looking forward to the redemption of Jerusalem. Here is this faithful woman, an elderly woman who has loved the Lord, who has fasted, who has prayed, who has spent time serving God night and day, constantly serving the Lord, living in the temple. And she sees Jesus. She hears what Simeon says, and she begins to go everywhere. She goes to all who were looking forward. She spoke about him to everybody. She talked about Jesus everywhere. He was a baby. He's a baby. And she's talking about him. The Messiah has come. Look at this. We think about John the Baptist, right? Who preached, prepare you the way of the Lord. But look, God is at work in many different places at once. He's not just at work in one place. He's at work in many places at once. So even as he was working in the life of Mary and Joseph and in Zechariah and Elizabeth, he's also working in the life of Simeon and Anna, right? For years, he's been working in their lives. I mean, we've just heard about this for months, working in the life of these others. But for literally for decades, he's been working in Simeon and Anna's life, promising them and preparing them. And now they become these first real preachers of the gospel, right? The preachers of, hey, redemption is here. The Messiah has come. And they were, Anna, we know, well up in years. Simeon, we assume, well up in years. It's never too late to start talking about Jesus. Never too late to start sharing the message. Boy, Christmas is the time, right? This season is the time, but it's always the time. It's always appropriate. People need to know there's hope. There is hope. And I think that was one of the things that they gained this. They knew it. They knew God's promise, but now they're seeing the beginning of the promise fulfilled. We're still 30 years away, 30 plus years from Jesus entering into ministry and preaching and then being crucified and resurrecting, right? We're a long way from that. And yet they see God has kept his promise. There is hope. Look, in the midst of darkness, there's always, 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 always hope. There's hope. Right? God is at work. God is at work. Share with other people. They need to know God is at work. He's not asleep. He's not tired. He hasn't left the building. He's not out in the back taking a nap. God is at work. I hope this has helped. Thanks for watching. Share this message with a couple of other teachers that you know. People that are teaching this passage, let them know about this so maybe they can get something too. Thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it. Subscribe to our channel and follow us. Get that every week. Follow us on Facebook and everything else. God bless you. We'll see you next week.